Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the program Spot On. My name is Jacqueline Adebija. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. The project Nigeria. It is a project that belongs to both you and I. Indeed, we must continue to find a way forward. Or find, when they say fall, fall forward, brings to mind what happened with the American president some days back. But, if you have to fall forward. And this is what we're hoping, that even when Nigeria is in its quest to get it right, it will, whatever mistakes there are, it will make it, it will fall forward. And that's why we must continue to talk about Nigeria. This evening, there are quite a number of things. Nigeria, just so much going on right now in Nigeria, such that you don't even know which one you want to talk about and which one you don't want to talk about at this time. However, there are several things that I would like to talk about this evening. And well, you'll be hearing from my guest. I chose him particularly because he's from amongst us. He's a Kadunan, and above all, he is a Nigerian. And he will be joining us shortly. But before then, just a little background on the first thing I want us to talk about. I want us to talk about Nigeria and its refineries. Now, how many refineries does Nigeria really have? Okay, we have our guest here. Give me a moment and we'll have him with us shortly. Do stay with us. All right, once again, allow me to welcome you all to the program Spot On. We have our guest with us right now, so let's just delve straight into it. With me this evening is Musa Bala. Musa Bala, for those who listen to us, is not only a farmer, he is an ardent lover of Nigeria. I'd like to say very passionate about this country. It's also not a secret that he wants to see more, sees more of the positive aspects of what this government has done. And yes, you could call him an ardent Buharist, which is why he is the most logical person at this time to bring to the table for us to talk about this, because a lot of people don't understand what's going on. And sometimes, or many times, it actually helps to see it from another perspective other than yours, the perspective that you are used to. And so, yes, I do have Musa Bala in the house, and we have questions. And so, Musa Bala, without further ado, I welcome you to the program Spot On.
Good evening, Jacqueline.
Good evening.
I want to say good evening to Invicta family, Kaduna State, Nigerians, and good evening to listeners all over the world.
Good evening and welcome, Musa Bala. Great to have you with us. Before you joined us, I was trying to give a background. Today we're talking about the many challenges of this nation called Nigeria. And I was trying to give a background about some of the things that have come out recently about our refineries. And I was talking about the fact that Nigeria actually has about 5 refineries, 4 being managed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, or the NNPC as you know it. And then we have 1 that is owned by the Niger Delta Petroleum Resource. Of course, under NNPC, that's where we have KPRC, talking about the Kaduna Petroleum Refining Company, and of course the one of Warri. We have 4 under the NNPC.
NNPC, yeah.
Yes, and then 1 under the NDPR.
Exactly.
Anyway, bottom line is, whichever one we are looking at, for over 3 years now, Musa Bala, these refineries have been dead, as in completely dead. Nothing is working. Every fuel that we're using, the refined fuel that we're using in Nigeria, is actually fuel that was refined, or PMS, premium motor spirit, that was refined outside Nigeria and brought into this country for us to buy again from people. So there are two things that have emerged. One, that Nigeria uses nothing less than about 10 billion every month to maintain NNPC. I don't really understand what maintaining NNPC is. The only thing I see when I try to read and research on it is salaries, just ensuring that the staff are paid their salaries. I don't know if there are other things, but 10 billion every month. If you put that aside, and then the fact that the government wants to use $1.5 billion, we did the math and it came to about 570 billion naira to refurbish only Port Harcourt refinery. We're not talking about the other 4 or the other 3, depending on how you choose to see it. I've already explained that we have 5, 4 being maintained by the NNPC, 1 by the Niger Delta Petroleum Resource Company. Okay, yeah. Yes. So the question I want to first put to you, Musa Bala, is, for a government that promised so much, not just in the area of petroleum, but in other areas, but particularly in the area of petroleum, is this a wise move? Why are we doing this? Do we even have the money?
Good evening once again. Let me quickly start by saying that, as I always said, Nigeria is greater than any single individual, including Mr. President or any other past president or any group of people or a section of this country. My struggle to maintain the integrity and sanctity of Nigeria is very open. Very simple arithmetic. Look at it. All the politicians that came on board 1979 from President Aliu Shagari to all the governors and the National Assembly members, I think those that are still alive are very, very, I don't think more than 5 people are still alive. It's enough lesson for us to understand that this nation not belong to us, we that we are alive today, but it belongs to generation coming. And that we must learn a lot of lessons to ensure that we preserve this country, not for our children, but for the generation we not even think of them coming. And on the issue of refinery, I have a lot of, let me say I have little knowledge about refinery, but I can talk about them very well. Because I've made a lot of research about the refineries. As you said, we have 4 refineries in Nigeria that belongs to the government. Put their capacity all together, they can produce about 430,000 barrels of crude oil per day. And they were not working for the past 20-something years, not 3 years. In fact, when we talk of working at installed capacity, they were not working for the past 20 years at installed capacity. Gradually, it was dropping to the extent that for the past 15 years, most of them are not working at all. If you can remember, for more than 15 years, we rely on the importation of PMS, that's a premium motor spirit. We import almost everything. And from that point, that is where we grow a kind of a clan of corrupt activities, whereby there was a year that we spent more than what we earn in subsidizing what we import. It was very unfortunate. And when this government came on board, there were a lot of promises, as he said, to ensure that we build or we republish our refinery back to order. But on assuming office, the president understands that the problem is even more than what he thought about it. We must think about it. How do we go about it? This is a product that we use every second. When I mean every second, Nigerians consume petroleum every second. Then how do we go about it? How do we republish these refineries? How do we go about curbing the corruption that engulfs these areas? The first move the president made, which was not done before, is to ensure that private sector engage in the production of PMS very well. The federal government granted licenses to private refineries to come on board. It also took the bold decisions to ensure that, okay, this subsidy scam will no longer be tolerated. It cannot be switched off in a day. Gradually, the federal government disengage and ensure that private companies or marketers have the responsibility of importing this product. But it must be regulated by the government. How much did you bring in this product and what is going to be your own margin in it? It is a project that is not going to take place within a day. Now, government succeeded in giving licenses to this private organization. The government succeeded in ensuring that one of the refineries have been commissioned in Imo State. That is Walter Smith Refinery. It's a modular refinery. Azike Refinery in Bayelsa State is about to start working. And the biggest of it all is the Dangote Refinery in Lagos. That refinery is so big that the capacity of that refinery is more than the entire 4 refineries belong to government put together. Even if they are working at 100% installed capacity. The capacity of that refinery is 650,000 barrels of crude oil per day. So we have a lot of achievement in this directive. Now, let me come back to the issue of republishing these refineries at the rate of 1.5 billion. These refineries were dormant or almost at a state of collapse. Now, what do we do about it? Do we just leave it or do we just decide to sell it like that? Probably nobody would like to invest in this kind of a company that has been gone down for long. Now, the government thinks that by the time that they republish the company, it will have been better somebody will buy something that is functional. I want to make similarity to an individual that have a car that has not been working for the past 3-5 years. Now, you call somebody to come and buy it as a scrap. Maybe by the time that he prices it for you, you will not like it. Then you would consider the option, okay, since I know the problem of this vehicle, maybe it's not as bad as what the buyer think about it. Let me fix it. Then let me see if I can have somebody that will buy it at a better price. Maybe I will gain from, let's say I spend 100,000 and the first buyer wanted to buy it 50,000. Maybe if I publish with 100,000, maybe I'll get 200,000 or 300,000. That is a gain. And at the same time, people, it's good to ask questions. But why do you ask that question? Do you really ask that question for the love of the country? Or do you ask that question because you don't want the government to do it? It is the same Nigerians that were saying that our refineries are not working. Our refineries are not working. Now the government wanted to put it back. How do you repair? You don't repair a refinery without putting 1 naira in it.
No, Musa Bala, let me jump in here and talk about some of the things you talked about, which is, those modular refineries, especially like you said, the king of them all, the Dangote refinery that is about to come on board. Would it not be smarter, even if we had this money? You remember that I asked you, I said, does Nigeria even have this money? Whether we're talking about it in dollars or we're trying to rationalize it and bring it back to naira, where we have 570 billion naira, proposed to be pumped just for the one refinery. I asked, does Nigeria even have this money? This is more than what we have allocated in our annual budget for some crucial areas. I don't want to go, bore us with the numbers. It's something that we can check out. But, there are crucial areas, education, health. They don't even have, some of those areas don't even have this much. And we are saying one refinery. You corrected me and said, look, it's not just 3 years. We're talking decades where these things haven't been working. Number one, those machines are no longer what is being used currently. As a matter of fact, reading up on it, I learned that even if our refineries were to start working today with the kind of machinery that we have on ground there, they would not be able to refine to internationally acceptable standards. So would it not be smarter for us to have completely new refineries with that money than for us to say we want to refurbish just one refinery with that money?
You cannot get new refinery with that money. The minimum cost of a refinery...
Modular refineries?
A modular refinery, already private sector have been taken over in that place. And this is something that we want to refurbish to either sell or maintain it again. And at the same time, you should understand that for you to have a brand new refinery now of that capacity, the least you spend is $10 billion. That is sometimes, before we criticize, we have to ensure that we made our homework, we study more to see that how much does a new refinery cost.
But because do we have must government have a hand in refining though? Because as it is right now, it is private individuals who are taking care of the refining for us in Nigeria. And this is why the problem of subsidy has not been able to be dealt with.
I have explained that to you before, that we need to take decision. Do we just sell this refinery as a scrap, or do we need to put it back to life before we decide what to do with it?
So that brings another question. It brings another question about whether or not this was debated on the floor of our upper and lower houses before this decision was taken.
And at the same time, there was no resistance from either upper or lower house to the move of the federal government to put this refinery back to order. We don't hear them saying that, no. We want to assume it has been discussed or is in the budget, because a lot of questions, as I said, that you will need to ask questions, but we have to ask questions for the love of our country. It is the same National Assembly that gives approval to most of these things, and there was no resistance from them. The resistance were coming from Nigerians. But I want to explain to you that, as far as I'm concerned, it is a wise decision. But I'm not saying that people should not ask questions. I'm just telling you that we are sitting between two alternatives. Do we sell these refineries as scraps, or do we refurbish and sell? Just the way I give an analogy of the other personal person having a car, and she wanted to sell it either as a scrap or let it refurbish it and sell it.
You know, some people, Musa Bala, some people have even come up with the idea of why don't we lease it? Why don't we lease it? Lease out our refineries. Some people have said just go right out and privatize it. There are people who can buy it for scrap, you know, inject money that they have into it. And that
is exactly what I'm saying. You may end up selling this refinery, let's assume, at $500 million. But probably if you inject $1.5 billion, you may end up selling it at $2.5 billion or even $3 billion. Because new refinery go for $10 billion. It's a matter of market strategy and decision. If the federal government feels that by injecting this money, they will reap more. Even if they inject 1.5 billion and at the same time they realize 2.5 billion, it means they have made an additional income of $500 million. Because by the time that you want to sell your property as a scrap, honestly speaking, Jackie, you will have yourself, you will hold your head and think that, why am I even taking this thing to market? That is the whole idea about it. I'm very sure if government decided to lease it out or to sell it as a scrap, same complaint or even more tougher complaint will follow. We are transiting.
But if we were to take a look at it, place them on, you know, like you said, put this up for debate and let's look at this. We use 10 billion every month to maintain NNPC, whatever that means. That means that in 1 year, we use about 120 billion.
Let me come in here.
Yes.
There is no any justification for anybody to say we use 10 billion naira every month to maintain. You need to explain what kind of maintenance. Is it the running cost, including salaries and other things?
I'm just telling you what is there. This is a fact that is, you know, you can actually go and research. We use 10
billion.
10 billion every month to maintain NNPC.
Maintenance of refinery is not done on monthly basis.
That is why I'm saying that the only thing that comes to mind is probably salaries, monuments, and the rest of it. So
okay,
let's not even think about the numbers for now. Let's think about how much the government is spending to maintain in a year.
No, let us not use that word maintain.
Okay.
The cost of running these refineries, including, but let's say, Okay, what is the recurrent expenditure of our refineries? Let's put it that way.
Okay, recurrent expenditure.
Yes.
It's just semantics. We're playing with words here, but
Now, when you say maintain, as if
yes.
it does not include salaries and other things, maybe just go straight to the plant.
No, because if we're saying that, the refineries are dead for decades, you yourself, you said that they've been...
Yeah.
So what else is there that is being maintained if they are dead, if not for salaries? Okay, so but let's move on to running cost. Yes,
running cost,
the running cost of the refineries. Altogether, we have about 10 billion per month. If you do the calculation for a year, you put that to one side, and then you think about how much the government is still subsidizing for Nigerians, because we still have subsidy. If you think about how much the government is carrying as a burden of subsidy on itself, and you add it to the running costs of the refineries altogether in a year, and then you put that beside what we just talked about, refurbishing just one at $1.5 billion. I don't know. Like I said, do we have that money? One, and then even if we do, is it smart? Because sometimes you cut your losses, like you rightly said. The decay of these refineries did not start in 2015 with this administration.
No.
It goes way back. Exactly. So sometimes you cut your losses and you just let it be. Do we have that money? If you look at what, if you just put these two things on your hand, and then as just an ordinary citizen, you take a look at it. Do we have that money?
Let me quickly give you this answer. You see, government have so many sources of income. It can be generated through internally generated revenue, sales of resources, or partnership with private organization, or outright loan. So it can come from any one of these sources. And cutting costs is something that must be done, which this government have started already. Maybe you don't know. I will tell you that this government, if you let's go to Sabo here, very close to you. All the NMTC quarters there has already been sold to the occupants. Because maintaining them is so humongous that it's ridiculous for even somebody to hear it. So they have not sold it out. And it has to be gradual. As I say that this government inherited these debt refineries and all these bodies. Now, do you just wake up one day and say that, okay, you've closed all the refineries? They are legal,
but they're not. Of course, maybe legal, but they're not working. So you would ask yourself why people haven't been paid off, and then these dead, not dormant now, dead refineries aren't. Yes, dead refineries that inherited by this government, but this government has an opportunity to do something about it, and we could either cut our losses and just sell them off for what they can get, and use that money and plunge it into something else. Because like I said, we're dwelling too much on the refineries. I want us to move on to other things, but the bottom line is Nigeria is faced with a myriad of challenges as is. This week I learned about the imminent shortage of food in the next few months, because of course we know the challenge of insecurity that we have, and farmers not having been able to go to the farm like they would. So you would think that whatever money we're able to pull together, we would, plunge it into other things that would bring almost immediate profit, if not in the long run, then immediately, to bring back returns for the country and for the people. It's a discussion that we're having, and it helps to see it from the other side. Yeah, it's something that one could, just to increase the value of the refinery. Exactly. But then again, do we have that money? I want us to quickly move on, Musa Bala. We are in a place in this country where a lot of people seem to see a certain part of the country. And oh, by the way, we are live on Facebook. You can go there and drop your comments, or you can start to send in your reactions via the number 090-7270-3270. I'll read your text out, and then we can have a very robust conversation. Hopefully we'll be able to open the phone lines very soon. But Musa Bala, we have a situation where this part of the country seems to think that part of the country is their problem, particularly this misconception that the northern part of the country is like an albatross around the neck of Nigeria, that, you know, the north has not carried its weight except for when it comes to politics. It's a very worrying misconception. I call it a misconception right off the bat.
Very worrying.
Very worrying. So how did we allow ourselves get to this point?
The problem is historical. If you look at the amalgamation of Nigeria up to 1957, when late Anthony Enahore called for the independence of Nigeria, I think the northern Nigeria, under the leadership of Ahmadu Bello, then even said that, please, the British should grant independence to the southern part of this country, and later, if the northern part of the country is ready, then they can give it its independence. It's a very dicey situation and very difficult to comprehend. That is the total acceptance of ourselves from different angles of the country. But unfortunately for our successive politicians all over the country are guilty of using these differences to advance their political interests. I think that is where we got it wrong right from 1960. We had regional, let me use this word with respect, regional champions. We grow on that perception. And at the same time, successive politicians, instead of, now, okay, since it is very difficult to separate, why don't we use our diversity, to preach and ensure deep unity in the country? Up to this moment I'm talking to you, many people use these differences to advance their selfish political interests, and it keeps hitting on the general public. It keeps hitting on the general public, whereby they keep separating the people or allowing the people to have some kind of hatred among themselves. But, living this country or separating now is so difficult that nobody can even tell you what the consequences will be. But unfortunately for Nigerians, instead of Nigerians to look at, okay, the problem is in the entire country. I still maintain it. I don't want to believe that the northern Nigeria is the problem of this country. No, the problem of this country are those few people who feel that they can turn this country to the best of their intention at any given time they so wish. Videos have been going around. Maybe you hear them on radio, on paper, having disagreement. But when they meet an equation, you cannot see the difference between them. They come from all parts of the country. So until the day the general population understand that, okay, can we also unite just the way that the ruling class unite? By the time that we're able to do that, I think we'll be able to solve most of our problems. Because, let me tell you something. Dividing this country, I'm not saying that it's not going to be possible. I'm not praying for that, but it is a very difficult something.
Indeed.
And is it the solution? Will that be the solution? Can the North or the Southeast or the Southwest have it so good if they are on their own? It's a question to be answered. But our being together is a source of joy and a source of growth only if we can understand who are the problems of this country. But by the time that we keep regionalizing problems, by the time that we keep giving it to an ethnic group, definitely we are compounding the problem rather than solving it. Because there is no any problem today in Nigeria that you will tell me that a certain community is free from that. We are all culprits as far as this country is concerned. But if we can understand that and decide to do the right thing, I think we'll get it right.
Indeed, I talked about it being a misconception because even though I wasn't alive at that time, I know that I was told and I have read that the North actually carried its weight in agriculture. When you're talking about whether be it the granite pyramids of Kano or the cotton that was coming from the areas of Sokoto, or you're talking, and hides and hides and skin, and all of these things, it all just almost vanished into thin air. And you start to ask yourself, what happened? And for any Nigerian who is unbiased, you would say to yourself that indeed we have been very, very unfair to ourselves, because we've had leaders from every corner of this country, and it isn't as if those corners themselves have benefited really from any one of those people who have found themselves in leadership at one point or the other. And so, we'll be back to talk about more of this, trying to see it from a saner point of view when we come back from this commercial timeout. Musa Bala, stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us through that commercial break there. Still with Musa Bala talking about the many challenges of Nigeria. We touched on the refineries and the planned refurbishment of that refinery, and then we were able to move on to the misconception about that, one part of the country has about the other part. It's not peculiar to a certain group of people. We all manage to have misconceptions, and particularly the one that is reigning now is the one about the North, being an albatross on the neck of Nigeria, not pulling its own weight. And then I did ask the question before we went on break, that what happened to the groundnut pyramids, the agricultural aspect of the North. What happened to it? Because indeed at that time, the North was giving as good as much as it was taking. And so at this point, I'll come back to you, Musa Bala. What happened to the North? The agricultural aspect of the North, what happened?
Oil dollars is something that is very easy to get. And at the same time, oil dollars can divert your attention or can take away your effort from other areas to concentrate in it. We have seen the crisis of oil dollars in Venezuela and some other countries, and in Nigeria indeed. It's so sad that our agricultural activity gone down very well. But with the commitment put by this administration, of which everybody, except if you want to deny it, they have put so much to revive agriculture, most especially as the future is telling us that crude oil will no longer be something we can rely on again. Our population is growing very well. If you look at advanced countries of the whole world, they are spending so much to ensure that they don't use crude oil. And at the same time, these countries are spending so much to improve on their agriculture. And that is why we too will have to ensure that we corner our effort now to improve our agricultural activities. And we have done so much. And we have seen the revolution have gone far. I think we are no longer, we've transformed from the second country that imports rice in the whole world to the first country that the highest producer of rice in Africa. And other stable food, despite all challenges, we have improved seriously. And at the end of this year, I'm happy to tell you that Nigeria will commission the biggest rice mill in Africa and one of the biggest in the whole world in Nigeria, Lagos to be precise. So
why are we seeing a concentration on rice, though? Because one would have thought that the granite, even though I do know that we're starting to see pyramids again, even though not in the capacity that one would have thought that by now we would have those pyramids back. But we seem to see a concentration on rice. Why rice particularly?
When you are transforming the lab of a nation, it takes decades. So you have to start somewhere. People talk about Rwanda, for example. Rwanda is as small as Kaduna State. But it took Rwanda 22 years. People will tell you that Rwanda is this now, Rwanda is that now. But they will not tell you that the man had to rule for 22 years. And at the same time, you have to be a civilian dictator to transform only Rwanda. So transforming Nigeria will not be a day affair. And at the same time, we must start somewhere. So if we can have it good at rice, maybe we'll move to palm oil, we move to groundnut, and so on and so forth. First and foremost, we need to feed ourselves first before we think of exporting. So we eat more of rice than groundnut. Probably that is the priority of the government, so that we concentrate on rice. Rice is something that is a staple food today in almost every form, with grains like maize and sorghum. So I think it's a good start, and it's a very nice directive.
Okay, at this point, I would like to open up the phone lines so that we can have one or two calls to have our listeners also chip in to the discussion. The many challenges of Nigeria. Nigeria is a project that we must be vested in. However, you do know how we do it on this program, that it is a program where we stimulate this very viable discussions. We're not interested in tearing down. We want to stimulate discussion, and hopefully people who can do something about it are listening. And so, of course, it goes without saying that we should ensure that those conversations are civil. Let's take this first call. Good evening. Engineer Emmanuel, you're welcome. Go ahead.
For me, concerning that.
Hello. Oh, wow. All right, Engineer Emmanuel, you might do well to try back.
Good evening, Mrs. Good evening, madam.
Good evening.
What is the name? I welcome your guest.
All right. Kure, you're welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you. He made mention of a refinery. I agree. He made some problem on the ground. But I was expecting him, since the president promised to drop the price of petrol, I was expecting him, since he made problem on ground, he would have revised his statement by saying that he will reduce petrol to so amount, but rather he keep on increasing it. Secondly, Atiku promised to sell the refinery. At the end of the day, I think that was what made him to lose that seat that he was fighting for. Finally, the third question that I want to ask him. He said that agitation here and there. The time Yaradua was ruling, there's no any agitation. But I was expecting that they should question themselves. What brought this agitation? In a situation whereby people feel that they have been marginalized. So you should expect that. So I want the government to sit up and ask what is the problem of that agitation. When somebody feels that you are pressing him, you don't need to hide it. He rather come out to tell you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Kure, for your submission this evening. Let's take another call. Hello. Good evening. Yes.
Yeah, you see, for me, it does not go down with me concerning this $1.5 billion that they want to use to renovate that energy. Honestly, it does not go well with me. Recently, Shell sold their refinery to one of the European countries. And that one, and everything is working normal for how many $1,000? So please, this government wants something. They're supposed to say if it's elected.
Hello, Engineer Emmanuel. There's something that you said that I want you to repeat. You said where that a refinery was set up for how much? There was something.
It was sold. Shell sold their refinery. This U.S. one of the countries there.
Okay.
For $700,000.
Okay.
And that one. Now, if we are using $1.5 billion to renovate, which we are not sure it will give us our expectation. Now, Mr. President, remember, he said that every year is going to build refineries. 3 years. Now, how many years are we now? Single one. Before he came into power, all this refinery was working. That's ugly. Now, he promised that...
No, hold on, Engineer Emmanuel, is that true? Yes, the refineries, were they working when he came on board in 2015?
Some of them were working.
Some of them. At skeletal level, right?
Let me finish my submission before my time will be up. He promised that they will encourage those people that we are doing some illegal modular refineries. To encourage them. Who among them have been encouraged? So please, I want this administration, remember, $25 billion was carried. That whatsoever they want to do with that money, they have given us accountability of that money. Now, 1.5, and he's telling us that they should hold him responsible if the thing did not work. Who will we hold after they have left office? So please,
Okay.
I think they can do something better. Don't go say as an individual is building a refinery. If don't go say Richard and the country, everybody will talk about don't go say. If don't go say not build a refinery, can't you build a refinery? They just have a refinery.
Okay.
Who can we say?
All right. Thank you very much, Engineer Emmanuel. Let me come back to you, Musa Bala. There was something salient, I think, that Engineer Emmanuel talked about, and that's
Yes.
you heard. Okay, were you able to hear all the?
No, I hear everything.
Okay, fine. Go ahead.
Let me answer him. Look,
Be quick so that we can take other calls.
Yes, agitation will remain in Nigeria. It has been all right before independence. Every day people complain of marginalization. Even during Eradua, people complain of marginalization. And at the same time, Eradua was the first president Nigerians were calling Baba Goslo in Nigeria. So we have history. And at the same time, Kure asks of, is it promise of Nigeria? Okay, Atiku wanted to sell refinery. It was a fantastic idea. But Atiku was the one that, spoiled his plan from the beginning because he says he wants to enrich his friends. That's what is exact. And this government will sell this refinery, not that about it. Even if this government did not sell this refinery, definitely the arrangement will be on there. And when you look at when you talk about what Engineer Emmanuel said, most Nigerians will complain about the amount. We are very ignorant about what is even taking place in refineries. Tell them what do they want to buy, what kind of plant spare part they want to buy, how much is it cost. My main reason is that if this money is budgeted, the work must be done. You don't expect people to work, for example, if the work there will cost Nigeria 1,300,000,000 or even 1 billion, they must be there. But the most important thing, the work must be done. If the work is not done, then that is why we have everybody must ask questions. So the work must be done.
No, it's not just about the work done. There's also concern about money. If, for instance, one knows that, say, 1 billion, other countries have used about 1 billion to build a light rail system, and we are saying that we need 20 to 25 billion to build it. This is just an example. I'm not saying that this is what we have.
Exactly.
In such a situation, it wouldn't just be the fact that let the work be done. It would also be about the cost. So there's also that concern about money. I'm just saying, Musa, there's also the concern about money.
The cost must be bearable. The cost must reflect what is obtainable around the world. But
if we have to go by that, the Shell. Anyway, let's take this call, please. There are a lot of calls that are buzzing. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Are you there?
Good evening.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Your name? Go ahead.
I'm Usman.
Usman, go ahead, please.
About this refinery, actually, it's a great disappointment. And I regret it, and I feel ashamed, actually, because since the inception of Mr. President or this government, he promised us that he would do 3 refineries. And even I myself promised people that we do 3 refineries for that. It's shameful. And actually, I don't blame Mr. President. There are saboteurs, that people who don't want this country to grow. I think Mr. President has tried his best. But I remember at the onset when Mr. President came on board, all the refineries, we saw refineries are working. And they are working. So unfortunately, everything just stopped. Nobody knows what happened. So unfortunately, even this one now, they are trying to revitalize, spending $1 billion there. And what I heard, I don't know whether I'll confirm it from Musa Bala there, because the project is signed, they said it's for 10 years before they finish repairing that refinery in Port Harcourt. I don't know whether it's true.
No, it's about 44 months. It will take about 44 months, according to what, I researched and found out. 44 months.
44 months?
Yes.
You see, so let's see if that will happen, because there are people who don't want these refineries to work, actually. It's unfortunate. And about this agriculture, you talk about agriculture in the north. When we talk about agriculture, Mr. President tried to shift off from this point because we are dealing with a monopoly.
We've run out of time, Usman, so please speed up your submission.
No problem. Let me just plan it on. That's
Okay.
all I said. Thank you very much.
Well, I thank you too, Usman. Indeed, I would have wanted to hear what you had to say about our agriculture, but suffice it to say, it's a discussion that we must continue to have. Musa Bala, you heard Usman. Did
Yeah.
you heard
Yes.
Usman, right? And we come back to this issue. When I was researching on this, it says 3 years was when we had, even though I know the rot had been happening for decades, that I know for a fact, but for the refineries to have completely come to a standstill, what I got was 3 years. And, I've gotten this from two of our callers now, that it's actually 3 years and not decades. There was some form of skeletal work going on in our refineries up until about 3 years ago. Let me come back to you, Musa Bala. Your final take, please.
What is going to take place in these refineries now about, because it's what we call remodeling, not only repairs. Because by the time that you want to put it back to function normal, most of the areas must be replaced, and that's what we call remodeling. And at the same time, it's wrong. Okay, let's just ask ourselves one question: for how long have we been importing fuel in this country? If we say it is for the past 3 years, it's not so. Jacqueline, I worked in Kaduna Refinery and Petrochemical Company Limited in 1989, 1991 as a temporary staff when I finished my A-level. I can tell you what was going on, what the corruption in NNPC started long time ago. If anybody is listening and probably he has worked in any one of these refineries, I want to make this confession that a whole department called Fleet Maintenance Department in KRPC Kaduna was completely gone down in the 1990s. That is when we started seeing private transport companies started taking staff to work. If you can remember that. It wasn't like that in the 80s. All corporation vehicles convey staff to their working place. And in the early 90s to 2000, we saw this work given to private organizations to start transporting people to work, which means that signal the date of Fleet Maintenance Department. We have seen importation of so many things at that time. Even our PMS started that time that, okay, we can no longer feed ourselves. Let's start it by then. We have seen a lot. Even NNPC quarters, we have seen private organizations taking their private generators and they're being paid on daily basis. Long time ago. So the deterioration, the collapse of our NNPC, our refineries, did not just start in 3 years. It's something that was going on, and at the beginning of 2000, we got it completely wrong with our refineries. We cannot maintain them, and definitely they are costing us a lot. Because if you hear their salary, if you hear their housing allowance, if you hear their other housing allowance, honestly speaking, you will not resist to say that they are the ones collapsing this country. So we must do the right thing, and at the same time, I want listeners to understand that, making this country great, I don't expect even the two administrations coming in the next 16 years to finish the project. We have to be very patient. We have to ensure that all of us put hands together to change this country. It's not going to be a day project. I am telling you, even the next two governments, 16 years to come, they cannot finish.
I'd like to thank you very much, Musa Bala, for weighing in on these discussions this evening, and to all our callers too. The Project Nigeria is one that we must continue to stay vested in. The discussions must continue. Suffice it to say, I see it like all Nigerians, we're all in the same boat. It hurts me when I see that, we start to throw accusations at each other, because it was the neglect of the agricultural sector that caused that collapse. And then, of course, a lot of people put their eyes to oil and, decided to go into politics because all the other aspects had failed. And so if you look at it, it was all Nigerians, or it is all Nigerians who have actually been failed. And so please do not be that Nigerian who will say, this part of the country is my problem, because after all, take a look around you. Those of us who live in Kaduna, is the North exactly having it sweet? I mean, really? Well, hopefully you'll continue to join me on these kinds of conversations, especially on Spot On. Until next Thursday, when I hope to come your way again, remain victorious. Keep those conversations unbiased and open. Musa Bala, thank you once again. Until then.